Welcome to the Chairman's Podcast. I hope wherever you're listening from, you can put yourself at the foot of my chair and hear some stories by the crackling fire. Come relax every Monday morning as I release a new chapter from one of my novels. My hope is for you to find yourself entering into new worlds beyond your imagination. So sit back and warm yourself by the fire as I begin. This is Book 1, Tauno, Medric, and the Dragon's Will. Chapter 4, VELDOR Medric. VELDOR Medric, Ray pondered. The Lord of South Delra's Academy, 17 years back now. Her fingers fidgeted as she spoke. He was the Lord before Lord Malion, his apprentice and friend. I sat silent, preparing to hear things I never expected. The life my father led was kept hidden from me. For 17 years, the topic was forbidden. My mother spoke little of his name, and his story remained unknown. But if I'm meant to be here, at least this is one good reason. He served valiantly for 12 years, but he was taken from us too soon. Ray's fist tightens as her words aggravate her spirit. What do you mean, taken from us? I ask curiously. The lies and deceit which masked my reality were now being unveiled. You really don't know? Chris inquired. Know what? My heart began to pump with fear and excitement. Tauno, this story has been a legend among our people for years. Ray's hands eased as she held them together. Your father, the lord of this academy, was known as the protector of Keeladel. Protector, I mutter softly. Ray paused as she herself dwelled on the weight of her words. For 12 years he did everything in his power to keep the people of this country safe. Her eyes lifted to a large centerpiece over the great fireplace. Hanging by iron prongs was a magnificent partisan. The weapon was of spear-like fashion, except its blade doubled that of the regular spear, a blade nearly the size of a short sword, yet broader in width. That is the very weapon he wielded all those years ago. Hanging with magnitude, its size is far greater than myself. They say none can wield such a weapon as gracefully as he did. With a mighty stroke, he could slice a great Yahona tree in half. Though his strength alone wasn't what won him the favor of our people. She turned from the partisan and looked me in the eyes. As a dragon's eye, he bore the dragon's will with great pride. Blessed by the gods, he sought to perfect his abilities. To test his own determination, he set out for the realm of Dravels. She pauses as the essence of his power washes over me. The realm of Dravels, I say in astonishment. Those are forbidden lands. Even North Delra as a whole is deemed unsafe. For the faint of heart, that is true, Ray said with a bright grin upon her face. VELDOR Medric was the greatest of our kind, and all before becoming lord, he set out to fight the Ice King himself. The Ice King? I ask, unsure of who or what that is. You do know why the realm of Dravels is forbidden, right? Well, I hesitate. The Dravels! Chris butted in with great enthusiasm. The demons of the north! The frozen reapers! I've always wanted to fight one, but going after the king himself? Lord VELDOR, he was truly the strongest. He did go after the Ice King, however he failed to defeat it, Ray continues. Managing to escape the battle with his life, he disappeared from the realm of Dravels. None could say for certain at the time if he had lived or not, because those who went with him also failed to return. It was years since his disappearance when he returned to South Delra. With no tales of his battle against the Ice King, and no reason for his years of vanishment, he returned with great ferocity and strength, proving his worth for the title, Lord of South Delra's Academy. He took his place as leader. Ray sighed. I really wish I knew more of his battles and accomplishments before becoming Lord. However, it was only once he did, people began paying attention to him. He gained his title of Protector when he vanquished the great Yuzka Serpent and regained the see of Silas F. Fids. Her eyes twinkle as she reminisces the tales of her youth. Then going east, he purified the lands of Talion's Grove, which, in and of itself, was an incredible accomplishment. Though great sorrow struck a few years after that, it was in the 10th year of his reign. Ray's eyes dim as she looks down towards the wooden table. A terrible dark force came up from the Azaka Desert. Striking fear into the hearts of peaceful civilians, he began his treachery. A black fog, like the growing night, would darken about him wherever he went. Shuddering at the thought, she lay her gaze upon the shadows of the room. His name was Noctis. Noctis. The name felt like a plague to my mind, the word filling my head with the blackening image of Hawesville. He came to destroy, Ray continued. A hatred towards the dragon's will had engulfed his very being. Then, as you'd expect from our protector, Lord VELDOR set out to defeat Noctis himself. But their battle was merely a game of cat and mouse. Lord VELDOR tracked Noctis all across Keeladel. Years of unsettled conflict left villages and towns in ruins from their chase. As Noctis learned his survival was slim, he deceived our lord into a final battle. Hidden amidst the treacherous forbidden passage, they duel alone, though the victor never emerged. Pausing, Ray held her hand to her heart. Lord VELDOR. In a solemn tone, Chris continued. He was found slain amidst the desolation of the forest. Noctis was never found. His touch of fear lingered for many years, yet he never truly returned. Sitting in silence, my vision paled into shadow. Ray and Chris said nothing more, for they had said all they needed to. The truth had finally been revealed, and the legacy of my father now lay its weight upon me. Do you expect me to be as great as he was? I asked, but they remained silent. Do you? My heart restlessly beat in my chest. We believe there is a threat to our people once more, Ray said softly. Lord Mal and the others have been pushing it aside, but the attack on Hawesville proves there is something sinister at work. But why bring me here? I ask as pressure begins to swell within me. It's as you said. We hope you'll be as great as he was, Ray admits to her desire. Lord Mal sees you as a new student, which is fine. But if a threat does arise, you may be the only one to stop it. Why me? Even if I am VELDOR's son, can't Lord Mal stop this evil you speak of? There's no telling what that man is capable of, Ray said in disgust. You really don't respect him, do you? I look at her curiously. It's not that. He is our lord for a reason. But why can't he take this matter seriously? Maybe he is, I say, trying to assume the best of Lord Mal. Ugh! I thought you'd understand the importance of preparing, Ray said in aggravation. You witnessed the devastation of our foe firsthand. He must be stopped. Her words brought back the dark and terrible memories of the burning darkness which had engulfed me. I just don't understand why I have to do it, I ask, and also begin to get aggravated. Just tell him, Chris nudged Ray. She's always telling me these sorts of things, though I don't understand why. Mustn't like keeping things to herself, Chris says as he turns to me. It's not that I have to tell you, Ray said harshly, but then her tone died down. It's just, no one else listens. Her eyes wavered, and she hid her face in her hands. Oh, don't give me that crap, Chris laughed. You're such a faker. As he points at Ray, he tries to cover up his laughter. With an aching heart, pity pours out for the turmoil within Ray. But just as I was about to rebuke Chris, Ray's hands open in the middle, and her tongue sticks out. I almost had him, Chris! Come on! She says as her facade broke. What? I blurt out as my emotions swirl. Anyways, as Chris was getting at, Ray continued from where she had left off without any hesitation. Ugh! I groan as I drop my head to the table. I see why you guys sit alone, I mumble with my mouth against the hardwood. Well, Tauno, the importance of preparing is because I believe the terrible foe you faced in Hawesville is Noctis. What? I lift my head suddenly. What makes you think that? It all adds up. The darkness, the fear, the black terrifying attacks. From my understanding, that seems like Noctis. Ray counts on her fingers as she contemplates. And what does Lord Mal think? I ask, using him as my scapegoat. He doesn't think it's him, though I'm not sure why. But if it is him, Ray's eyes twinkle with a sinister gleam. Vengeance! She cries aloud. Noctis killed your father. Now Tauno, take the blessings of power given to you by the gods and strike down your terrible foe. He's starting to sound more like your foe, since you're so hung up on defeating him, I say with a tilt of my head as I watch her battle the air with her fists. And who's to say I have this great power to take vengeance? I mean, even as the son of VELDOR, I haven't shown any signs of being a dragon's will. That's because you haven't tried. We can help you and show you what you need to learn. Standing up, Ray exclaims this in excitement. We can get started right away. Ray. Chris pushes her down in her seat. Give him a break. He sat looking down at the table. It was a lot to take in for my first day as well. Just take your time, relax for today, and check out the academy. We can come with you, and I'll make sure Ray doesn't force training on you. That sounds a little more pleasant, I say with a smile. Humph, I like my idea. Ray pouts. We can't waste too much time, she urges with her hands pressed up against her cheeks. Yes, we know, Chris said with a sarcastic glare towards me. Let's get going now. I believe you're all finished, Ray. Chris turns to her picked-apart meal. Why don't we meet at the beach? I'll clean this up. He stands and begins taking our dishes. Thank you, Chris, I say as I stand as well. Ugh, Ray pauses. Thank you, her tone hinting at sarcasm. Turning from the table, Ray grabs at my arm and drags me from the lodge. He's such a bother, she mumbles frantically under her breath. You seem to get along great, I said with an upbeat attitude, but her gaze sharpened with fierce eyes. He's a dragon's claw. It's just fun using him to blow off steam, Ray said as she marched on ahead, leading me further down the sunlit paths. So, I begin as I follow her. You've labeled me as a dragon's eye. What does that mean for me, like training-wise? I thought you didn't want to train, Ray asked with a snarl of annoyance. Well, if you want me to stay, I think I should understand what it is I'm staying for, I say, turning my reasoning back on her. Though, not for your purpose of fighting a dark power. I'm just intrigued with what it is you do here. That's fair, Ray sighs. Then why don't I show you? She turned her back at me, and the rising sun radiated off her face. We can go to the beach and wait for Chris, and while we're there, I'll show you my dragon's breath. With a vibrant smile, she turns to the path ahead and begins jogging beyond some trees. Following from behind, I quicken my pace to match hers. As we jog, the morning sun continues to cast its light over the dawning landscape. Each tree, large and magnificent, hung drooping branches low with bountiful green needles. The ground, scattered with patches of moss, had open fields littered with students. Some, still weary from their sleep, wander helplessly among their friends. Sitting or playing, the other students frolic about in the summer breeze. From my understanding, the academy had closed for the summer, yet students still remain and live among the staff. None focused on training at this time, which left a speck of disappointment in my heart. The 4 academies among Keeladel are kept secret from the day-to-day life of us commoners. This is my chance to witness the greatness of their so-called dragon's will. However, at this time, these students show no desire to wield their great power. Passing some cabins, Ray turned out of sight. Quickly following the corner, I run past some students dressed for a day in the water. But my eyes were quickly drawn to a sharp and bright light. The reflection of the eastern sun cast its vibrant rays upon the crystal water. Glistening waves crash on shore with the radiance of broken jewels. Once adjusted to the penetrating light, I see the true depths of the lake. Its waters are clear and pure, with a sandy shore steadily descending into its great vastness. Further beyond the shallow waters are cliffed edges, dropping the water's floor into great, deep caverns below. Ray tosses herself down onto the sandy ground and rolls about without a care in the world. She let out giggles of pure joy and pleasure as she releases clouds of sand into the air. The warmth of her laughter and the brightness of the day took hold. Casting light upon me, all lingering fears of my encounter in Hawesville vanished. Now watching Ray closely, a flickering memory opened within my mind. Did you save me? I ask, half under my breath. Pardon? Ray's head shot up from the sand. Someone saved me in Hawesville. Who was that? Oh yeah, that was me, Ray said bluntly as she wiped sand from her cheeks. Thank you, Ray, I say with a faint smile, then kneel beside her and look out over the lake. You must have gone through a lot just to get me here. It's no problem, she said with wide eyes gazing at me. Why are you bringing this up so suddenly? You don't intend on leaving, do you? No, I was just curious. It couldn't have been easy, I say softly. It's not something we should reminisce about, Ray said coldly. You're right, I mumble. But isn't it weird for me to stay here? I ask, changing the subject as Ray's gaze dims from her memories of Hawesville. What about my life back with my mother? This is where you're meant to be, Tauno. You're a dragon's will, which your mother knows full well of. You should take this opportunity to learn about the skills you've been blessed with. Ray sat up, and the heaps of sand fell from her body. Maybe after you see what it is we do here, you'll have more of a desire to stay. We'll see, I say doubtfully. I've learned about my father. That is truthfully all I really wanted. This life of training and growing stronger isn't for me. We'll see. Ray mocked me with a copying tone. Then standing to her feet, she brushes herself off. Now then, let me demonstrate my dragon's breath. Reaching for her pocket, she pulled out a tiny black book. The cover seemed hard and its pages were tattered. Flipping through some loose papers within it, I see the dark scribblings of ink. Stopping on one of the wrinkled yellow-stained papers, she looked up at me. Then lifting her hand forward, she extends it out between us. Azeka Arikrosta. She spoke clearly and majestically. The words vanish, but leave a heavy presence behind. Then looking down at the ground, she watches the sand. Following her gaze, I study the same spot. The grains of sand below our feet shift and swirl with great elegance. Twisting about in a solid fashion, each grain begins rising from the earth in a line directly to Ray's hand. Solidifying as it grows, the sand forms the shape of a flawless spear. Its texture, that of a rocky surface, is held together firmly, though distinct rivers of loose sand fall from its blade. Even my eyes, which followed the very path of sand, could not believe what was performed before me. Close your mouth, Ray giggles. My mind numb and my actions distant, I place a hand on my chin and shut my mouth with great exaggeration. But as I stare in disbelief at the greatness before me, one thought rushes through my mind. Could you teach me that? I said aloud suddenly. Her gaze shifts away from me as she extends the spear and points it over the lake. Walking towards the lake's shore, she reaches its edge. Splashing sympathetic waves upon her shoes, she places the spear into the water. It begins to dissolve and wash away as the current pushes and pulls upon its great dense form. To learn this magic, a dragon's will must possess the dragon's breath, Ray began. You, Tauno, are a dragon's eye. She wipes her damp hands on her pants as she turns to me. The skill of the dragon's eye is in its predictions. Like your father, you have the ability to search through the future as well as the past. Her eyes stared sharply at me. Tell me, have you ever predicted something? It could have been an accident or deemed a coincidence, but if there was even a single time, great or small, it could very well prove your dragon's eye is real. Taking a seat on the sandy beach, Ray pats the ground beside herself. Was there a time you made a prediction? She watches as my expression shifts into shadow. Then sitting down, I look over the distant lands. Dark clouds begin to loom over the northern horizon as my memory lapses back to Hawesville. There was a time, I say softly. Recently, I should say, before we met in Hawesville, I was having nightmares. It began only a week or two prior to the incident. A shiver ran through my mind as flashes of the dark dreams fill my memory. Dreams? Ray cut in with a low whisper, almost to herself. Yes, dreams. They seemed random and unimportant at the time, yet they held a horror too realistic to forget. Looking back, I can honestly say I wished they had just remained in my head. But after the attack, everything connected. Coincidence or not, it didn't matter at the time. What I witnessed, no one should have seen. But I saw it twice. And you're telling me that was on purpose? It may not have been on purpose at the time, but if you can wield it as your own, you could have the power of foresight, and that can be a major benefit to this academy's protection. And why should I protect this academy? Because Noctis has returned, Ray blurts out suddenly. No, he hasn't, Chris's voice called out from behind us. I thought we were going to hold off on all that stuff until tomorrow. I was avoiding it, Ray said frantically, but he was pestering me all about it. Ray points her finger directly in my face and almost pokes my eye out. I was merely asking about the dragon's will, I interject. I want to understand what it is you guys do here. Then why don't we show you? Chris said as he got closer. We can head over to my training grounds. You'll be needing to know where that is soon. Why? I asked, confused. Of all your explaining, you forgot to tell him about his dragon's eye? Chris confronts Ray. I didn't forget. We were getting to it before you interrupted, Ray said angrily as she turns to walk off ahead of us. Before I interrupted, you were going on about Noctis. Chris laughs as he pulls me to my feet. Whatever. Let's just go to the training grounds. You can explain as we walk, Ray said as Chris and I follow behind her. Leading the pack seems to lift her spirits as she begins frolicking about in front of us. Ray already told me about my dragon's eye. It gives me the ability to predict the future and see the past, which is incredible, I must say, but I don't know how to use it. That's fine. You'll learn. However, that isn't all, Chris began as he walks with fierce strides. The Dragon's Eye is the rarest and most powerful of the Dragon Will classes. The second strongest is the Dragon's Soul. This class wields the power of the other 3 classes: the Dragon's Claw, Dragon's Breath, and Dragon's Scale. Chris turns to me as he spoke. A Dragon Soul user can obtain these 3 classes. It is a rare blessing, but not as rare as the Dragon's Eye. You've been blessed with foresight, but that isn't all. Each Dragon's Eye has the power of the Dragon's Soul within them, though some cannot exploit their true powers even with years of training. However, as the son of Lord VELDOR Medric, I believe you can obtain such greatness as he did. I just don't understand. For what purpose should I train for? What benefit comes from holding such power you speak of? I ask as I duck under large limbs of trees. The benefit, Tauno, is helping others. Danger is never far away. These lands are roaming with beasts of great evil. What happens when your hometown is overrun? What can you do? Chris prompts me. Nothing, I say solemnly. Then train. Over time you can wield power which none can contest with. But I can't spend years of my life here in this academy, training my whole life for a slim chance of danger. Tauno. Chris's tone thickens. I can't take Ray's side, that Noctis has returned. But have you forgotten? Your town was attacked only a couple days ago. No, I bow my head low. Of course I haven't forgotten. But why must I train to stop that evil? You don't have to. This is a choice you make on your own. However, if you choose to train alongside us, you will gain comrades in arms against any who oppose you. Chris steps onward with great pride. And when an evil stands against you, we shall stand with you. Although many things were left unanswered, I still had lots to contemplate. My mind sorted its thoughts as we continued to walk. Ray was leading us further into the thickening trees. A small, mossy path lay beneath our feet as we walk, and to either side lay large stones scattered about the forest floor. Beyond the dispersing trees, a warm breeze washes through from ahead. Peaking light opens before us as we enter a large clearing. The sound of clashing steel rang loud over the open land. Long grass, green and lush, blew gracefully around the busy students who were scattered about training. Many held a sword and a shield, while others threw large spears into the distance. No student stood still, for everyone was improving their skills. This is the training grounds for the Dragon's Claw! Ray spoke loud over the ringing of blades. With her fingers in her ears, she squinted at every loud crash. It's not very peaceful. That's why it's so far and out of the way from the other classes. It's loud because we actually do stuff here, Chris laughs at Ray. Hopefully, Tauno, you'll join me in training sometime. We'll see, I said as I too lift my hands to my ears. I'm not very good with weapons of any sort. That's why it's called training, Chris said as he nudges me back towards the forest. You'll learn. For now, let's go elsewhere. It really is busy here today. We begin to follow the path back towards the cabins, with Ray now pacing herself and walking alongside us, kicking up dirt as she steps and staying quiet as we pass by the lodge. So, Tauno, do you think you'll be staying? Chris asks as we walk. At this, Ray became noticeably more interested in the conversation. My father led this place once. I'm sure there is more for me to learn about him if I stay here, I say in return. Also, I begin as I turn to face Ray. You have to teach me how to use that magic you did at the beach. At this, Ray's face glowed. Of course, she said cheerfully. Except we can't rush into something like that. You need to learn and understand the abilities of your own class. You should study your foresight first. Taking my hand, she tugs me forward. We should go back to your cabin. There's plenty of books on the Dragon's Eye in there. I guess, I say hesitantly. What about the tour? Chris said from behind as he drifts further away while Ray pulls me down the path. That can wait, Ray said. He should be learning his abilities as soon as possible. You're getting too caught up in all this Noctis nonsense, he yells. Whatever. I'll see you at the lodge for lunch. Chris turns from us and went his own way. Is this really necessary? I ask as Ray led the way back to my cabin. I think Chris still wanted to show me around. He can do that later. I believe now is the best time for you to learn. The sun is bright and the weather is pure. You can study up before lunch and tell us what you've learned then, Ray says. You're not coming with me? I say, partially disappointed. No, you need to study on your own. It's the best form of focus. Trust me. Ray smiles as we pass some cabins and head towards the water. All right, I sigh. The sudden fluster for training caught me off guard, but Ray's determination rubbed off on me. Where are you off to then? I asked as she began to walk further from me. I have to tend to some things, she said secretively. I'll come get you before the bell. Saying this, she waved goodbye and left me on the path to my cabin. Walking up to my cabin door, I turn and look out over the academy from my porch. The reality of a great world beyond my day-to-day life was beginning to sink in. Ray's looming suspicion of the attack on Hawesville being Noctis's doing didn't leave my mind. There is a threat out there, and if I want to remain safe and learn how to protect myself, this place is my best option. End of Chapter 4. Thank you for listening, and come back next Monday for Chapter 5, Dragon's Will.